Welcome to Our Drummers Musicians. I'm your host Luke, and today we have a fantastic guest, flautist and composer, Yael Zamir. Yael is one of Australia's only specialist jazz and Southern American music flautists, and she's a rising star in Melbourne's jazz scene. She started in classical music, studying under Helen Hardy, and later graduated from the Sir Zelman Cowen School of Music, where she was recognised with the Jeffrey Whitelaw Jazz Award. But her journey didn't stop there. She found a deep passion for jazz, improvisation, and the infectious rhythms of Brazilian and other South American music. In this episode, we talk about why she made the switch from classical to jazz, the role of music theory and solfège in her development, and what it's like playing in groups like Panorama Brasil. Plus, we dive into the unique challenges and joys of being a jazz flautist. Well, it's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Pleasure.
I had El Kerr on,
Uh-huh.
and I knew him from when I studied at Monash.
Oh, you went to Monash?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
And I know you graduated in 22, and I saw him posting about you doing some stuff with Panorama Brasil, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool to like have a flautist on the podcast, get to know a bit about you and like what it's like being a, contemporary artist with a flute in Melbourne.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good.
I'm just going to take my puppy's bone out.
Oh, hello. Oh my gosh, you're so cute. Wow, that's a cute dog.
That's our co-host Scout. Scout is a Basenji, which is this like quirky breed from the Congo.
When I was younger, I was really obsessed with dogs, and I had this big book full of dog breeds, so I know all about Basenji.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Not many people know them. They're all like, oh, your dog's got a curly tail. What is this?
Yeah, no, it's because of my younger self and having that book.
Nice.
Yes.
Did you have dogs growing up?
No, I think that's why I loved dogs so much as a kid, because, it was like a dream, like a proper thing I would fantasize about constantly having a dog.
Uh-huh.
And never got one until I was probably in grade 5 or something, and then we got a dog finally.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, and now I'm older and I don't really care that much about dogs anymore. But I really like your dog.
Excellent, I'm glad.
He's very cute, yeah.
So whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in McKinnon, here in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been here since I was 2.
Cool.
So yeah, I don't really sound like I've been here since I was 2, but I have been, I swear.
Yeah, because you do have like a bit of an accent.
Yep.
Is it just that you've picked it up from like family and the community you grew up in?
Pretty much. I mean, I was born in the US, but then I migrated to my family was in the US like for work, and then I was born there. And when we went back to Israel, which is where my family's from, and then I was only there for like a year, and then came here when I was about 2.
Okay.
And my siblings, because they learned English in the US, I learned English from them. And that's what happened there. Yeah.
Wow.
And it never really like died off. Like you'd think that by now it would be gone, but
yeah.
No, it's actually a mix though. Everyone here thinks that it's full American, but if you actually listen to me speak next to an actual American, you'll realize that I'm not that intense. Yeah, like the accent isn't that like angular.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mix. Yeah.
I'm sure when you go like to America, they would be like, oh, you just sound like an Australian. Like,
yeah. They definitely don't think I sound American anyway. Yeah, they don't think I have an American accent. So yeah, that's proof for you.
Well, so tell me a bit about what it's like working with Panorama Brasil. If we can start there, and then I don't know, then we can look back. It's sort of like the journey to get there. But like, what's happening with you now in Melbourne? Because this episode's going to come out like early next year. So I'll share some stuff, but I can't like directly plug what gigs you're playing.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
like,
for sure.
At the time of recording, you're about to be like MD for like one of the gigs tomorrow.
Yes.
And what was it like getting involved with Elle's project and being able to like become musical director of a show yourself?
Yeah, it was really cool. So I've been in this band for quite a while, pretty much since, I'm trying to think, I think I was at uni already. when I started. It was a kind of like, I think it was 2021 maybe, because Al was my director, my ensemble director. I was in brass jazz in first year, and then lockdown came and it was awesome. And then after lockdown, basically, or like in the middle of lockdown, somewhere around there, the flute player that was once in Panorama Brasil, her name's Asha, she's lovely. She actually moved permanently to Perth. So he was like, oh my God, I need a flute player. And I just happened to be in his ensemble, and it's not like flute players are very easy to come by in the jazz world. So he was like, oh, can you do this recording for me? And then from there, I was kind of in the band and did a bunch of gigs with them.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really cool. It was one of the first bands and gigs I really did like after lockdown. And at all, really, because I was pretty new to gigs and stuff. I came from the classical world, and it was all very new to me. When I came to uni, the first day, and I had ensemble, I had Tony Gould for the first day, and he was like, "Oh, so you guys playing many gigs?" And I almost said, "What is a gig?" Like, like I was like, "What? But how do you get gigs? Like, what do you mean? Are you playing gigs?" I thought that was for professional, like fully, developed musicians. I was like, "Well, how do you get gigs?" So, yeah. Anyway, it was very new, but yeah, it's wonderful working in that band because, all the musicians are amazing. They play amazing music. I love the music. And it's really helped me to like discover so much music as well, because it just so happens that they pick really good songs. And so I always have to go, and learn them. And I'm a lot of the time, more often than not, I'm really fascinated by the music because it's really good. They don't just pick like, really common like Brazilian jazz standards, which are also really beautiful, but they have wonderful arrangements, and they pick like, the more niche stuff that people haven't heard of that much here, and it's really, really beautiful stuff. And so, working with Panorama Brasil has always been great. Never had any complaints. And then I started to want to put some projects together recently because I guess I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm playing lots of gigs, and I think I should start putting on my own gigs because that's kind of the next step. So I was trying to like push myself to put on my own projects, which I do need a push for sometimes. So and I was telling Al that I was thinking of putting together like a forró and baião project, which is like, we didn't really do very much of that in Panorama Brasil. It's just kind of something I've done with other bands, and I really love that music. So I was like, I'm thinking of doing it, like just seeing what he thought about it, and maybe he wanted to be involved. And he said, oh, we can make it a Panorama Brasil thing. Like, we can make it a Panorama Brasil project, and then you can be the artistic director. And I was like, wow, cool. That would actually be really good. And more importantly than anything, it actually made me do it because I'm the kind of person that will say, no, I'm not ready. So he was like, yeah, let's do it. And Al books gigs. He doesn't wait around. Like, he'll just kind of get stuff done. He's very proactive. So he was like, yeah, let's do it now. And so we actually booked some gigs, and it gave me a really big deadline. So, yeah. And it's been awesome. It's already a band, so I didn't have to put together any band. It's already a great band that plays together a lot. And Al is really, really good, I guess, as a mentor to me when it comes to everything, but also when it comes to like putting together this gig, because I'm always asking him about like tickets and audience and how this works and that works. And he also obviously it's his band, so he's also helping me with promo and all that. So it's been really nice to kind of have a bridge between putting on my own project kind of completely in a bare way and having that bridge between Panorama, something I've already done, and a new project that I'm running. Yeah,
what a great arrangement.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's great. It's it's very helpful and very cool.
What's it like, having come from playing in the band yourself to then like being the artistic director of it, and sort of taking on like the leadership and the artistic role of like, choosing all the music and stuff like that? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I do enjoy it, but I guess I am very I'm a little bit of like a shy kind of person in a lot of ways. I guess I'm always very tentative to lead people because like on one hand I'm also extremely perfectionist and I know exactly what I want and I won't let anyone get in the way. So on one hand it's like, you know, I really like I like to have like make the calls, but on the other hand I don't actually do it always in practice because I'm like intimidated and I'm like, oh, you know. So yeah, it's been really good practice. Yeah, especially because, you know, the musicians in Panorama Brasil, none of them are like my age, none of them are people I knew from uni or anything. Like, it's all like people that are, you know, really advanced and a lot more like progressed than me in their career. And so it's, I guess sometimes it's a little scary for me to like, you know, boss them around. So it's been good practice to to do that. And it's been also like, you know, kind of like an honor to lead all these people that I actually look up to so much.
Yeah, it's quite special.
Yeah, definitely.
The challenges of working with like experienced musicians, but then also like the benefits that you get being a young musician where, you know, yeah, it's a bit intimidating asking someone who's like, you know, been playing music for 40 years or something, but also it's nice to hear that, you know, especially like with Elle, like you've got a great mentorship going on with him where he's happy to answer questions and stuff like that, and the rest of the musicians, you know, because you've known them so well and been playing with them, I'm sure that they would be like, you know, generous and kind with you as you're like learning and, you know, giving them instructions on how you want it to be, but in like a very, you know, familiar and kind environment rather than one that's like, you know, just very cold and dry or intimidating or something like that.
No, definitely. All the musicians in Panorama Brasil are really lovely and warm and everything. So yeah, it's a good environment. I don't feel you know, unsafe or anything. So it's really good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you get started then with the flute? If we go back to your origins, where did that come from?
Yeah, sometimes I get this question and it's not a very interesting answer, but this is the answer. My dad thought I should learn a musical instrument. My dad's really into music. And he was like, oh, I think you should learn a musical instrument. I guess he could tell I was musical because from a young age I was really into music. And he said, oh, I think you should learn the flute. And I was like, okay. Yep, that's the story. It's not that crazy. Like, it really isn't. I really chose it because my dad thought I should. And that's the end of it.
Nice.
Yep.
So what were you listening to beforehand? Like you said you were really into music. What were you into?
So I was really into Broadway. And when I say really, I mean it engulfed my entire life. Like, I was watching The Sound of Music 5 times a day. It was nuts. I had like this I remember I had this stack of paper. Someone had printed out the lyrics of every song for Sound of Music. And there's this one song at the end of Sound of Music. I forgot what it's called. It's like something about, I think it's when, have you seen The Sound of Music? Mm-hmm. It's when the two main character adults, I don't remember anyone's names, even though I've watched it 5 times a day since I was little. But yeah, they like get together finally and like sing a song about whatever being together. And that song is like the less known song in The Sound of Music, or at least in my head it was easily forgettable compared to the others. Mm-hmm. And that song, like, I don't know, this is a really weird story. It's just proving that I really like The Sound of Music. That I remember I lost that sheet of paper for that song, and I was starting to like doubt myself if it even existed. And I had like dreams about this song, and I was like, oh, this song, I wonder if this is real. Like, does it really exist? And I couldn't find it anywhere. And then one day I like found it underneath like some pile of stuff, and it was just the best day of my life. And like, you know, I could have just asked an adult to print it out again. Mm-hmm. It didn't really cross my mind, I don't think. Yeah.
How old were you at this time where you were obsessed with music theatre?
I was like, probably like, I guess around prep age maybe. Uh-huh. I think, yeah. But over quite a big period of time, So like probably between 4 and I don't know 12, honestly. Yeah, I loved the sound of music. I loved Annie, Singing in the Rain, everything. Yeah, I would listen to a lot of musicals, and I would really like them, and I'd sing them, and I'd like I'd make dances up with my sister and like boss her around about things. I would get mad at her for looking at me and copying my dance moves rather than just remembering them. Yeah, it's easy to do that when your little sister's 4 years younger than you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The fun of like family music projects and
yeah, that's
the family concert. I assume this was like to perform for your parents.
Oh yeah, definitely. We did lots of that. Yeah, and I also even joined. Do you know what YBC is?
Yes, my sister did it.
Yeah, there you go. I joined YBC for quite a while as well, so I did a lot of like singing, dancing, acting kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's then the first thing I can remember when it comes to music, and the first thing I really got into. And
wow.
Yeah, I really did get into it. I really loved it.
Interesting. So whilst you were, passionate about theatre, you're playing the flute, I assume in like a classical AMEB style like learning program?
Yeah, well, honestly, I only started playing the flute when I was like 11.
Right.
So that was quite late, and I was starting to become an adult and whatever, and I guess I had different things in my mind, and I couldn't watch Sound of Music 5 times a day, didn't have that option anymore. So, yeah, when I was doing flute, I did AMEB exams, but like for the first probably 2 years of the flute, I didn't do them. I kind of just hung around, did it for fun. Then I started getting serious about it, and then when I was in year, I think 8, I did my grade 6 exam, and then year 9 I did my grade 7 exam, year 10 I did my grade 8 exam, and then I did VCE, music performance, in year 11, and VCE, music investigation, in year 12, and then uni.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was your investigation thesis?
It was the influence of folk music on mainstream classical flute repertoire.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were like passionate about beforehand, or you picked it as like a topic to dive into?
I think that I had a lot of help from my teacher at the time, my year 12 teacher, he was really lovely. I had a lot of help from him deciding on it, and I think I initially wanted to do something jazz oriented actually, but I was discouraged because of the lack of flute players that would be judging my exam, like because of the lack of flute players that would actually know much about jazz, which I think is really fair enough, because it's true, there wouldn't be anyone. There's just no way that there would have been an examiner who's a classical flute player, because that's who they get. There is no one else. So yeah, they wouldn't have known. So I ended up not doing that, and I think the repertoire I had that I really liked kind of lined up with being influenced by folk music of some kind. So that's what we ended up with. Yeah.
Who was your teacher?
Well, I went to McKinnon Secondary, so Mr. Korovsky, Baltazar Korovsky.
Cool.
He's an organ player.
Right.
Yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah. It's always nice
sometimes,
I think, just to nod to who the different music teachers are that have
definitely
impacted us and got us to where we are as, performers or whatever.
Oh, for sure. And in McKinnon, I had like a whole bunch. Yeah, there were lots of teachers that really kind of made me love the music program. So yeah, it was good.
So did you do like jazz flute playing whilst you're at high school?
Yeah, I did, but I got into it quite late, which is why, as I said, when I went to uni, I was really clueless. I got into it, I think it might have been year 11 that I went to Generations in Jazz with school, with the stage band on saxophone. And I just remember there were like 4-hour concerts every night, and I was not bored. Like, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was super fascinated. Like, I mean, the musicians there were absolutely insane performing. So it was really awesome. And I was like, wow, I love this. And like before that, I had my dad really likes jazz, right? So he tried to kind of push me into jazz. And I don't know. I never really got into it, to be honest, very much. I was kind of just like, oh, I don't know about this. I tried it out, but I was really shy, like really shy, especially back then. So improvising to me was so scary. Like someone telling, like I would go to like a teacher and they tell me, you know, just put on this backing track and play something. And it was so scary. Like I was so scared of everything that would come out, that it would be judged by everyone who listens to it. So I never got into it. But when I went into Generations in Jazz, I really fell in love. And I came back and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is definitely what I want to do. So then I ended up kind of making a plan from there. And I got lessons from Martin West, who's the head of music at the time at McKinnon. He gave me some lessons on like improv in year 12 and kind of helped me to work up to the audition. And that's, yeah. And I went to uni from there and did jazz at Monash. Yeah.
So what was that like, being, you know, so new to improvised music, but studying it at like a tertiary level?
Yeah, it was really hard. Like, yeah, it was really weird, honestly. And not many flute players do that. Like a really tiny amount, right? Because there's such a tiny amount of flute players that do jazz in Melbourne. And part of the reason I think is because you don't get taught to do that, right? Like everyone gets taught classical music and no one teaches you jazz. No one does. So it's a really difficult thing to like push yourself to go into that world, because when you're in that world, you feel so out of your comfort zone. It's not even funny. Like at uni, it was nuts. I was used to being, you know, pretty on top of things and feeling pretty confident performing, you know, because I felt like, you know, I practiced a ton in high school. I felt like I had a good thing going on. And then all of a sudden I was just like really scared of performing, really scared, because I was so new to improvising. I didn't know what a 2-5-1 was in first year. I'm not even kidding. You can imagine how difficult it was to improvise when I didn't know that. Yeah, it was like, going from feeling like I was, you know, really confident in my skills to feeling absolutely not even a little bit confident in any of my skills. And I feel like people still kind of respected me as a musician because you can hear that I have practiced a lot. You can hear that I have good technique and stuff, which I guess even more so in jazz, because you're used to hearing sax players playing flute and you're used to hearing quite bad technique. So when you hear a classical flute player playing jazz, it's like, oh, your technique really is good. But in terms of improv, I was like really, really struggling. So yeah, it was tricky. It was really hard to kind of accept. I don't know. It was always this thing where I had to learn to accept that I'm not any better than I am in this moment. And I can only perform what I am right now in this moment. And the practice takes so much time, and you know, like it's not gonna be instant, and you just have to accept that you're performing right now and you're as good as you are, and what really counts is the work you're going to do and how much better you're going to be in the future. But it doesn't mean that right now when you're playing and you're not 100% covering everything like you want to, that it means that you're not a good musician, you know. So yeah, it was
that's so wise.
Lots of that.
Yeah, it's amazing that you were able to, you know, do that. Well, I think first off that you actually like went to study jazz flute, you know, to do that, like you say, where there's not many people that are doing that in the whole world, let alone in Australia. Yeah. Especially not in like the modern era. And then to, you know, be faced with the like, oh, my skills in the improvisation area are not what I thought they would be. But then to be able to accept it and go, yeah, all right, well, I'm just going to work really hard because I know that, you know, 4 or 5 years down the track, it'll all pay off.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's quite amazing that you were, I don't know, just able to accept it like that, you know, well done.
Thank you.
But like, yeah, I know. I guess it shows that like you're quite a hard worker, and yeah, you have the patience to push through the like uncomfortable periods of, okay, I'm gonna get humbled at performing to like, you know, the whole cohort, right. But that's okay because I know that I'm working really hard and it's gonna pay off later.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Did you have other people that you you know, bonded with on that experience whilst you're at uni, or you know, that you looked up to that helped you sort of dive into the improvisation world from like a peer perspective?
Yeah. At the time, I was really, really motivated to find out how to practice in jazz because, and by the way, still to this day, I find it so difficult because there's just infinite. Like, it's infinite. It's so creative. Like, everyone says different stuff. It's all about what you want to do and what you feel inspired to do when it comes to practicing in jazz. And in classical music, it was so straightforward. I never had an issue with it, honestly. Like, I had an issue. The only thing I had an issue with in classical music was, first of all, losing my whole entire brain because it, because it was so, like, it drove me crazy because...
Yeah, what do you mean?
Oh, just like, you know, I'm a huge perfectionist and classical music in itself is a huge perfectionist. And you put those two together and it was just a bit of an explosive situation. So sometimes I would just like sit there and practice a phrase for hours. And I mean hours, like one phrase for hours. Mm-hmm. And it would get worse and worse and worse because I would get so in my head. Like so in my head that every time I played that phrase, my entire body would freeze up and I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, it's not that I didn't practice, it's just that I got so stressed about these tiny little insignificant things in my life that I wouldn't be able to do it. So that was part of the reason that I knew I didn't want to do classical music anymore.
Right.
But in terms of practice, like knowing what to do and knowing how to do it, it was so easy for me in classical music to know what to do. Like, I would know exactly what to do. And of course it's easy because you have this piece of paper that you have to work through and your teacher tells you exactly what to do and you do it. It's like, you know, I have a goal. It's not like in jazz where you just like... literally infinite possibilities as to what you can play and all the keys and how you do it and how you practice. So basically I had a really big goal to find out how to practice, which I still have, but less so. So I would ask everyone that I met, how do you practice? I would try and find out what their process was. And everyone had a different thing going on. Some people would have kind of this perspective where you have to like learn a whole bunch of licks and stuff and take them through 12 keys all the time, and that was one thing. And then other people were much more kind of creative and loose about their practice. Some people something in between. I just kind of got all these ideas of what to do and how to do it from all sorts of people, and I'm pretty sure I wrote this all down like in my notes or something. I wrote down all these different methods of practice and all these different exercises, and I just kind of collected a big dictionary of them. And so now I kind of forgot the question. What was the question again?
I can't remember exactly what the question is, but it's interesting hearing you talk about like I was talking about like were there peers that you were going through the learning process with, or, you know, leaning into, or anything like that. But I'm intrigued by this investigation of like the practice of jazz process. Was there anything that, you know, resonated with you once you collected all that and you're like, oh yes, okay, I really like transcribing other people. I really like practicing everything in 12 keys. Like, what was there something for you that, you know, you found that you liked?
Definitely, yeah. There were things that I found I liked and things that I found helped me more than other things. And teachers, like, I remember I would request teachers based on what I wanted to practice that year or that semester as well.
Yes.
So, the learning licks in all 12 keys and going for that method, that wasn't really, I didn't really like that very much. I didn't like it because I didn't feel creative when I was doing it. And I felt like it just kind of, I don't know, I guess it made me feel like I wasn't really going to be improvising. And on one hand, it's like, well, it was kind of something I had to learn as well. Because at the beginning, I didn't know anything really about jazz. And I really did think that everything anyone played was completely new. And that's just not the case. And so that was something I had to accept. But at the same time, the lick learning kind of method for practice was just a little bit too rigid for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is. Although elements of it I still do. And I think it's great for some people, and I think it's definitely something to consider. But for me, I didn't like that. So I was basically trying to steer away from that and find other ways. And so, my first teacher I had was very much creative in the way that he taught and the way that he practiced. So it was interesting to hear some of his ideas. However, he was too creative for me in first year because I was a very inexperienced jazz musician. I, again, did not know what a 2-5-1 is. That is nuts for someone doing jazz, right? You have to know that, like, in jazz school. Come on, you know? And my teacher was so focused on all the creative stuff that I didn't really necessarily get as much of a foundation of the theory and all that. Mm-hmm. And so for that reason, I think it was like a little bit too creative for that particular point in time, and but those kinds of exercises I got from would have been better in my third year. So the kinds of exercises that really helped me in first year were things like arpeggiating through every chord. That helped me a lot. Mm-hmm. And doing chord tone improv. So those two things, I did a ton of that. I would take like these arpeggio patterns, like I would go like 1-5-3 or 1-5-3-7 or 7-5-1-3. Like I would mix it up, and I would take it through the chords of like All the Things You Are or something, and then do that in every single key. And it took me a really long time because there are 12 keys. What on earth? That is so much. I still angry about that. I really am. Like 12? Is that really necessary? That takes so long to do something in all 12 keys. Anyway, it took me a really long time. And I spent a lot of time on it. And I remember I came to my teacher and told him, hey, like I did this practice. And I'm like, I feel like maybe I went a bit too hard on it and I kind of did way too much. And he's like, no such thing. And then he looked at all the patterns I did and he just, yes, you did. Oh. You did go. So the point is I went really hard on that exercise. And honestly, I play a lot of arpeggios, but it's good because that's how you outline chords, right? That is it. So it was good that I did that. That really helped. I had a bunch of lessons with Tony Hicks throughout my uni life, and I still have some occasionally, and he is amazing. Like his outlook on practice and the way that you improvise is probably the closest to what I want to have myself out of all the teachers I've ever had. So he's really helpful. He taught me to like take a solo and analyze it, and then take what you've analyzed and improvise on that analysis. So like if you transcribe someone, I think what I used to do, he didn't tell me to do this, but it was all inspired by his lessons. I used to do like I transcribe a solo, and then instead of writing it down like you would expect to write down a solo, note by note, I would actually like write down like a lead sheet kind of style of all the chords and the length of the solo, and then in every bar I would kind of outline what they're doing in that solo. So like let's say the first bar they're kind of just doing arpeggio, second bar they're playing on this scale, third bar they're playing on this particular rhythm, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then I could just grab any element on that piece of paper and practice that. Like I could practice, okay, they're improvising on that rhythm. Okay, let's take that rhythm and practice improvising on that rhythm. And then I could take anything I want from that page. And that was, a lot of that was inspired by Tony Hicks and what he would teach me about improv practice. Yeah, and I found that really helpful. Obviously, transcribing universally for everyone is great. So I do that, of course. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific that was really helpful. Oh, yes, of course. The other thing I was going to say, something I really got out of uni was actually theory class. As I said, once again, I didn't know what a 251 was. So, of course, theory class was absolutely nuts. Like, it was great. I learned so much in theory class, in jazz theory. Everything they taught me was new. Actually, my partner, he was at uni with me in the same year. He is a pianist with perfect pitch. He's great at theory. Everything he learned in theory was a joke to him because it was like so easy. He knew all of it. It was boring. I can't imagine that. Theory was amazing. Everything was like, wow, that makes so much sense. Of course, that's what people mean when they say this. That's what this chord means. Before theory, a page of chords was so overwhelming. It was nuts. I had no idea how to tackle it. I had no idea how I was meant to think about every chord as it moved so quickly and change everything, the scale I'm using, all this stuff. Like, it was just too much. So the structure of theory and the analysis that they taught me was really great. And what I really loved about theory as well was solfège, because I found that really helpful, yeah. And in high school, we did it as well, but I never liked it, never caught on. But in theory, we really, it was really enforced, to the point that we did assignments where you would have to sing in solfège. It was really enforced. So I really got into the solfège thing, and it was one of the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had in jazz, because I went from struggling with relative pitch and stuff so much, and it's still difficult for me because I have no element of perfect pitch, and I don't really have the kind of relative pitch that some people have where they can kind of listen to the timbre of things and know what pitch it is based on that. I'm not very good with that. But solfège opened up this world for me where I could hear where do was and know what everything else was. And to me, that was groundbreaking.
Wow.
Really groundbreaking, because it was my version of relative pitch. And I still use it all the time. Nowadays, I don't really practice in solfège like I used to at uni. But because it's 100% because of all the solfège practice that I did, that I can hear where do is and mi, and I don't think of it anymore as do mi, so I think of it as, if I'm an F, F-A-C, right? But it's all linked, and it's all from solfège. And I did so much solfège practice, and that the last thing I was going to say with solfège is that my teacher, who I requested specifically because I knew he did solfège,
is this Mirko?
Is Mirko. Yes, Mirko. So I requested Mirko in second year, and it was a little bit sad because that was actually lockdown. So part of the reason I loved my one lesson with Mirko that I had was that he plays with you, and it was amazing. But then, of course, in lockdown, you can't do that. So that was a bit sad, but it was still really good because Mirko is all about ear training. He taught me so much about ear training, and he taught me that I should do this exercise where I basically, whenever I transcribe stuff, I will sing it, and then I'll sing it while putting my fingers on the notes. And that exercise to me was really, really, really good. And then I would add in my own little thing where I'd sing it in solfège as well. And yeah, that was really good to just develop my relative pitch and develop any sort of knowledge about what these pitches mean in terms of actual notes. So yeah,
it's funny that you've gone from being obsessed with The Sound of Music, which everybody knows the solfège song from, to go to jazz school and being oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but solfège has like opened up the world to you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is a big circle.
Yeah, it really is. I've got so many things I want to ask you, but we've been playing this game on the podcast, so I should make sure that we fit the game in before we run out of time. But each guest asks a question of the next guest.
Okay.
So I've got a question for you from our previous guest, Toby Peterson Stewart. He's an amazing bass player. You should check out his band, The Omnific.
Oh, okay, cool.
Two
Sounds
bass
good.
players and a drummer, and they play like extreme slap bass, extended technique, like metal slapping and tapping.
Wow,
and
beautiful.
it's quite impressive. Anyway, This is Toby's question for you.
In what point in your life, or if there was or wasn't a point in your life that you knew that playing music or making music or being a performer was like what you wanted to do as your thing in your life, you know, whether you knew that was going to be for the whole life or like part of it, just when?
So when did I decide that this is what I want to do, basically? Pretty much when I went to Generations of Jazz, but then I guess earlier than that maybe, because earlier than Generations in Jazz, I started thinking this is what I want to do in terms of like flute, and I guess I thought at the time classical music. Probably when I was like in year 9, I'd say, when I started to like do my first exam. I don't really know exactly why. I guess a number of things. There were a few things that I really loved about music. One of probably the main thing, which for this reason, if not a bunch of other things, for this reason most of all, I don't regret at all for a second any of the classical music I did, which is that whenever I performed, like, I don't know, it was like really awesome to feel like the emotion through the music. And I get that in jazz too, but I guess in classical music, I could sit back and relax a little bit more and not necessarily have to dictate what comes next as often. So I had more time to think about things and just listen to what was going on around me and what was coming out of my own instrument. And performing was sometimes just the most amazing thing ever. Like, it would just feel so good. It felt like crying to somebody about what's happened or something like that, but in a good way. Like, it just felt like like pouring out emotion through your instrument, and that was a really, really cool thing. And I think that's part of what really brought me into wanting to do music. And then jazz specifically, I think when I went into Generations, and I really loved that, and I thought it was amazing, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And wanting to have the the knowledge about music that the jazz musicians all seem to have, you know, more than just playing stuff. It's like making stuff. So I guess a combination of those things.
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what would you like to ask our next guest?
That's a really hard question because I don't know who they are. Do you?
I do know who they are.
But I'm not allowed to know.
No,
I'm not allowed to know.
Yeah, that's the fun of the
Okay.
of the game, the intrigue.
Yeah, I didn't expect to come here and be an interviewer. That's so interesting. Okay, let me think about this. I might take a long time to think about it.
Sure. You're welcome to take as long as you would like.
Okay. Oh, okay, maybe I have one. I think if you had to pick one style to go with in your life, one style to master 100%, and this kind of depends on who you have, right? Because maybe they've already done this.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one style to master and pour into your life over everything else, what would it be? And especially if you've already done that, why? And what would have come second?
Yeah, great question.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I wanted to ask about like the Brazilian music, because Yes, it's got lots of improvisation and complex harmony like jazz, but it is its own like musical style as well. It has its own rhythms and phrases. And I was thinking that probably because you have such great classical chops from your background of practicing like that, it was probably easy for you to play quite a lot of the what otherwise would be like quite complex like melodies that it, you know, really long forms, lots of like 16th notes. It's all very fast and like, you know, complex, I guess. So maybe that would have suited you quite well to come in and go, oh, well, I've got to read like a 64 bar melody, and you could probably just play it. And the improvisation thing, you know, has grown out of it. Was that sort of like, I don't know, a fair guess at what it was like for you starting in like the Brazilian scene?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. I mean, we did get quite difficult tunes sometimes from Al in ensemble, for example. And yeah, it wouldn't take very much effort for me to learn them, whereas probably other people seem to struggle with it. And of course, that's thanks to my classical background. But then, yeah, when I started improvising, then I was terrified. And, you know, there were things I could do to kind of get away with it. But as soon as it became non-diatonic, it was a real struggle. But yeah, the classical stuff definitely helped me with that. And I think that's probably why I enjoy choro so much, because part of, I think, what really helped me with getting into Brazilian music and actually helped me even understand how to improvise better on Brazilian music is learning so much choro, which is something that I got introduced to through the Brazilian community. Yeah, it is like 16th notes on steroids. It's insane. It's really difficult music. Yeah, like they don't stop. And you know, as hard as it is to play in terms of fingers and all that, the hardest part is where and when do I swallow. It's horrible. When do I swallow? I can't like play for this long like without swallowing, and there's no time to swallow in choro. They don't let you, you know. So yeah, choro is awesome, and it was really, really good for that. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have the classical background, because yeah, it's just like, oh, learning a tune, like I've done this before. But for a jazz musician that hasn't done the classical stuff, obviously it's probably much more daunting. Not necessarily, I mean, obviously you could just have really good technique, that's very possible, but I guess for a new jazz musician that hasn't done the classical stuff versus a new jazz musician that has, it really helped me out in that sense, and indirectly to jazz, because then choro helped me with jazz. So yeah.
Wow. So what are you like most looking forward to about, you know, the next sort of, let's say like 5 years of your music? Do you want to keep diving further and further into the Brazilian scene, or like spread yourself into like doing jazz and Brazilian work, or travel? Like, do you have plans, or is it, you know, well, we're trying out this new idea of you starting to like, you know, be artistic director, and I know you've got another duo as well, and sort of just see where it goes?
Yeah, good question. I do have loose plans. A few things, like in general, I want to, as I said, be putting more and more of my own projects out, which has been something I'm starting very slowly, but I'm doing it gradually. Like I've got my own jam that I run every Monday at Wesleyan. I did a Father's Day gig last year, and I'm doing it again this year, which I run, and I did my own music for that and arrangements and everything. And then I've got this forró project as well. And then I've got a few other things in my head that I'd love to do here. And yes, I'd love to put together my own quartet or something like that, and do some gigs. That would be really cool as well. And then, yeah, traveling would be really great. That's also a goal, but it's a little bit more of a long-term goal, because I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat. And I love to be home and comfortable. And like, I haven't traveled alone or anything, like, so to me that's very daunting. But I would love to travel to New York, and I would love to travel to Brazil for music reasons, and also other reasons. But yeah, the idea of waking up in the morning and going to a hotta, which if you or anyone who's listening doesn't know, is like basically like a jam for choro. Oh my god, that's amazing. There are so, like, at least at the moment, we don't have a lot of hottas in Melbourne. It's like once every 3 months now. It's crazy. It's not very helpful to keep you, in shape. And also, hottas, I always love them. I always have such a good time. Every time I think I've missed one hotta ever since I started playing choro, which was like in 2020 or end of 2019. I've been to every hotta. Like, I love them. So the idea of like just being able to wake up, go to a cafe and play with actual like Brazilian musicians in Brazil playing choro is crazy. That would be amazing. I'd love to do it. And New York as well just kind of feels like, I should. Everyone does it. I should as well. Yeah, one day.
All right, 5 short answer questions to finish up.
Yep.
Let's see if I can remember what they are. What is your favorite venue to play in Melbourne?
Probably... Oh my gosh. This is... Okay, the answer will be short, but the thinking might be less short. What is my favorite venue to play in Melbourne? Oh gosh. Okay, can I say 2?
Yeah.
I can't decide between. I love Jazz Lab because of everything. I think Jazz Lab is perfect. I think the vibe there is awesome. I think the audience is exactly what you want. And the people that run it are really lovely and everything. So I love Jazz Lab. And then Recital Center. I love playing there because it makes me feel like, I don't know, it's like luxury. At Recital Center, they open doors for you. Yeah. One time I left the Recital Center and this guy opened the door for me, even though he was carrying like all these billions of boxes, and he didn't even his job is not to open a door. And I walk past him and he puts down all his billions of boxes, walks to the door and opens it for me. I'm like, whoa, like they're really nice at Recital Center and they take care of you.
What about a dream venue of yours?
Oh, a dream venue. I went to Blue Note in New York a few years ago, just before lockdown, and that was really, really surreal and awesome. I saw Arturo Sandoval there, and that would be a dream venue.
Cool. What is your favorite place to get food after a gig?
In
Melbourne.
I never get food. I go home and sleep. But
that is also a legitimate answer.
I feel like I get food before gigs rather than after gigs. But I don't remember the name of any of the places. So I don't know what to say. Oh, I really like that place across the road from Jazz Up. Their tacos are really good.
That place has been mentioned a couple times before.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Awesome. Valid answer.
What is your coffee order?
Coffee order. I don't know that much about coffee, so I usually just get a normal coffee. But I really like chai latte. That's not a coffee though.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, but it's such like a Melbourne thing that it's...
Yeah.
I feel like it's nice to play into the iconic nature of Melbourne and coffee, and
definitely
there's some seriously like quirky coffee orders on the show.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
but no, we'll accept chai latte.
Perfect.
Or normal coffee.
Normal coffee. I don't know if you should accept that one.
Like, if you say to a barista in Melbourne, a normal coffee.
I've done it. They don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I don't know what that means. Like,
yeah,
an instant coffee or a latte?
Yeah, that's right. It's I don't know. I think a latte is a normal coffee, but also, like, what's the difference between a latte and like a cappuccino? I don't know. I just asked for one of them when they forced me to give a normal answer.
I think a cappuccino has more foam and chocolate shaken on the top
That's
of the
the
foam.
only difference?
Yeah.
Right. Because in that case, like,
I don't drink coffee.
I might as well just ask for a latte and say, oh, can you put foam on it and chocolate? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why it needs to have a separate name. It seems like an additive, like, kind of thing. But I know people disagree with me, so I'm obviously wrong.
I don't know. That's interesting, though. I like the way that you think about that.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's raised lots of questions, and I feel like we should check back in like a year or two once this next phase of your career progresses.
For sure.
And see if you've like managed to convince people to move on to asking just for coffee and then listing all of the special bits.
Yeah, for sure.
Or if you've learned to accept the various names.
Yeah, that's right. I drink instant coffee every morning, so I'm just the worst person to ask about coffee. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I only have instant coffee at home. Yeah.
International roast, blend 43.
I don't even know what that means. Like,
those are
I don't know. I just have the one that comes in a jar. I think I don't know. It just comes in a jar. I don't know anything about it.
This is so intriguing for me, like as a fellow perfectionist. But that you don't know what coffee you drink every day.
Yeah, I don't know. You know why? Because I'm terrible with names.
Right.
Really terrible. Like, I don't actually think there's anyone who's worse with names. Yeah. I know that sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke.
I find names really hard.
Yeah.
I immediately forget them. And
I
I've
immediately
tried all
forget
of the
them too.
things, like you say the person's name back to them. It's
Yeah.
like, nothing works for me.
Yeah. Well, nothing works for me, but also I haven't tried any of those things because I always forget. I always forget. There's no world in which when someone tells me their name, I'm actually going to be like, oh, I should remember it. No, when they tell me their name, I'm thinking about something else. And there's no controlling it. So I just don't remember the names. Yeah.
The biggest tip that seems to come is you try and say the person's name straight back to them a couple of times. Mm-hmm. So, they say hello and you don't say hello back. You say hello, their name.
Yeah. That sounds like a really great tip, but I won't know what to say. I won't know their name. I'll already forget. I think the best thing for me that's always worked is having them on Facebook. As soon as I see it on Facebook, I see it and I remember the way that it looks. And that's the thing. I remember how things look, but oh my God, I don't remember names.
That's so interesting. Yeah, once you've seen it written down.
I guess so, yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't work for albums, though. I don't know the names of any albums. I just say, oh, it looks like this. It's pink and it has things on it. Yeah. It's not good. I don't know what's wrong with me. Yeah, it's a bit like that.
All right, final question. Mm-hmm. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
One piece of advice that I would give to my younger self is probably to calm down. Yeah. I think sometimes, well, I still am like this, but oh my God, like I would stress about everything so much and everything would be a big deal. And I was so scared of like talking to anyone and I was so shy and yeah, definitely just be to calm down and stop thinking that anything matters at all and just relax. Yeah, that would be nice. It wouldn't work though. I think my mom probably told me that all the time and it didn't work, but I would still say it.
Elle's variation on my final question is, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self that your younger self would actually listen to?
Yeah, that's right. See, that's a much harder question. I don't know, like it would have to be something that I was already doing, like wash your hands or something, like what am I going to listen to that, yeah. Because I feel like I already would have gotten good advice. My mom gives pretty good advice, but I probably just wasn't very good at listening to it anyway.
You took your dad's advice to play the flute and look where that's gone.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know if it was like life advice though. I guess it was just like, you should do this. I said, okay. But yeah, I guess it was advice. You're right. I did listen to something. Well done, younger self. That's what I would say. Well done.
Well done, and thank you so much for sharing about your journey with music on the podcast. It's been really nice getting to know you and hearing all these stories.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, even though I'm not a drummer.
Well, what do you think? Are drummers musicians?
I think yes, and I haven't really heard anyone say that they aren't, so I'm not really sure why I would say no, but I think yes. That's my vote.
Finally, can I ask how to pronounce your name?
Of
So that I
course.
get it right for my
Yeah.
introduction.
Yep, my name is Yael. So you just say Ya, and you say L, you say Yael.
Yael
Perfect. Yael.
Zamir?
Zamir. Yep.
Yael Zamir.
Perfect.
All right, excellent, great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on Our Drummers Musicians. I hope you enjoyed diving into the world of another musician as much as I did. Help us grow by leaving a review and sharing the podcast with your friends, family, favorite artist, or anyone else who might enjoy it. For more info and updates, visit ourdrummersmusicians.com. See you next time.